I feel like we've been on the hunt for a Beyond God Tier 2024 attacker, and we've got a lot of good potential options like White Tiger, Prowler, even Spider-Punk is pretty dang good. But Count Nefaria is just a whole different beast, I feel like, especially in these matchups where he can manipulate the opponent's regen and power gain. So let's take a look at this Nick Fury fight. Let's see how fast he takes this prominent skill defender. Keep in mind, skill defender, like he is a science character doing the skill defender, and look at this damage output. So once we have our Furies up and we have our Ionic Overcharge, he is doing 22,000 mediums, he is critting a ton, and yeah, he's gonna even cancel out the second life essentially. And this Nick Fury was a, let's see, 49-second fight. That's insane. Like that is one of the best Nick Fury times, and it's by a science champion. That just shouldn't really be allowed. So this is a good showing of just how powerful this champion is. I think in these matchups he is without a doubt like top tier. This is crazy stuff. The way he manipulates the regen, the power gain, he does such a good job at it, but he also just has a ton of damage output. Like, he is a really strong general DPS. Like, even outside of these metas where like there are no regen or power gain benefits, he still is a very strong attacker. So yeah, here I drop the SB2, no crit, doesn't matter. Here I go back in, get that perfect parry, which is a bit hard to master. Like, the timing is kind of weird for some champions, so it's not like a perfect fight every time, especially if the opponent has special attacks that you just cannot punish. But if they have special attacks that you can punish, the fight is such a good one. He is so good for like so many different mystic characters, so many skill characters surprisingly. And yeah, that right there was a sub 60-second rank 3 Sasquatch takedown, and I was punching up, so that is just incredible. Now we have this Shocker fight, a rank 3 Shocker. Nothing too crazy in this matchup, but still is a very nice one to showcase. And yeah, like this Battlegrounds meta where there is Rich Get Richer, pretty much perfect for Count Nefaria because he does ramp up on that extra power gained. So yeah, this is just peak, man. It's so nice. Like, he's such a fun champion to play as well. Like, that first medium attack is a thing of beauty. That punch on the SB2 when it crits, it is just perfection. This man is so dang cool. Like, genuinely one of the most cool characters in the game. And that's a 74,000 crit. Like, what are we even doing here, man? Like, what even is this? It's like a, what, sub 50-second takedown, 50,000 point score Battlegrounds matchup. This one wasn't as fast because I didn't know how to play this fight originally, but once I was like halfway in the fight, I realized that Count Nefaria does something very cool. So what Count Nefaria does is he gains degen resistance based on his ionic charges. So once those bad boys are like really high up, he kind of takes like 0 degen damage. So against Mr. Sinister, who is all about degen, you are kind of just chilling because he can just counter the degen very easily. However, he is not the best for Mr. Sinister because Mr. Sinister cannot have his regen rate modified, so keep that in mind. He is still pretty good for him if you just don't crit, but if you do crit, it's kind of not fun. But his crit rate, it's like normal, I think, so you should be fine. But like if you get unlucky, which is funny because usually critting a lot means you get lucky, then yeah, it can be a bit longer. But then this happens. He drops the SP1. I was like, well, there's all my health gone. And then I realized, wait a second, Mr. Sinister's debuff is a degen, and Count Nefaria takes like no degen damage. So I can just eat like 2 of these at once. I can eat 5 of these at once if I wanted to. I'm chilling. So if I noticed that a lot sooner, then it would have been a much faster fight. So yeah, he's a really good Mr. Sinister counter as long as you don't crit. So just don't crit, I guess. Now we have this Korg fight, and this one's a pretty interesting one. I do mess up somewhere because I forgot that Korg has this one very silly ability. So like, I'm gonna drop the SP1 right here, and then he drops his, so I'm like, okay, I'll just parry it. Just kidding, evade failed. So note to self, do not try to parry that SP1 because it will not work. But the SP2 you can parry, so just do that and you get that, you know, extra energy vulnerability. And yeah, now that he is in Ionic Overcharge, all of his hits are non-contact and they deal energy damage. So that means he counters Korg completely. Really, really good stuff here, and honestly one of the better Korg counters in the game. It's crazy how he's good for Nick Fury, for Atuma, for Korg, and this man is a science character. So that's just a thing of beauty, really. And then we get to this fight. And I won't spoil what happens, but you'll see in a second. And we'll just let it play. We'll just let it play. So here she goes for the heavy attack, that's fine. Here she goes for the SP1. And let's just pause real quick. It's gloom time. We were so close. We were so close to having the Beyond God tier science character of our dreams. But then one silly little mastery kind of just ruins everything. Is Count Nefaria completely written off because of unfazed? It's still up for debate, right? Like, I could have played that differently. I could have just, you know, not have gone in and just got better reflexes. But here's the thing. I had to go in to get a lot of extra damage. So if I don't go in, I miss out on a lot of extra damage output. So he kind of just becomes nowhere near as good. And this really sucks, obviously, right? Because Battlegrounds is the most important game mode in the game, like whether you like it or not, right? So even if this guy does go to the Beyond God tier, people will figure that out and they'll run unfazed, and then unfazed just stops this man completely. And like, how terrible is that, man? Like, that's the worst thing ever for a character, when the one thing that stops you is something that any player can access if they just spend a bit of units. And then not only does Count Nefaria become a whole lot worse, but like, imagine how his designer feels, right? Like, you spend countless months designing this character, perfecting his kit, and then one silly little mastery just kind of makes it all fade away, and then your character becomes kind of irrelevant in the most important game mode, which is Battlegrounds. That's terrible, man. Like, that must be like the worst feeling ever. But there probably is ways to make him work in Battlegrounds with like avoiding the unstoppable and all that, but I think the only ways to do it cost you a lot of damage. So then he goes from Beyond God tier to just being like kind of average when it comes to fight time and like just fights taken, I guess. So if you ask me, if unfazed never existed, would this man be Beyond God tier? Yes, he would. And absolutely, 100%. This man is, I think, the best at what he does. I think here's the thing with Count Nefaria. His form of damage output isn't from countering, healing, and power gain, right? Like, the leaders, that's his damage output. And we all saw how easy it is to stop him. Like, the current Alliance War tactic, he's garbage for. No one assigns him because he just doesn't really do that much damage in it. Count Nefaria, though, he wipes the floor with anything, right? The regen and power gain stoppage, that's just a bonus on top of his crazy good damage output. Like, he is genuinely busted. I think he is, like, genuinely, if unfazed wasn't a thing, best attacker of 2024, probably. So, like, that's what makes this even sadder, right? You know, that's what makes it even worse, man. Like, that was a really clean fight, a really good fight. Like, he stopped Spite, he got a whole lot of damage, because of course he did. It was just a really, really clean fight. But then, like, you want to try it out in Battlegrounds, and then you can't because they evade, and then you just get clipped, and it's so frustrating, man. I just feel bad for, like, the designer. Like, I can't imagine putting in so much work for something, and then it's like whenever I like make an intro and I spend like an hour doing it, and then I like upload it, and then boom, I use the wrong kind of music and it gets like claimed, and then it's just like, oh well, there goes my hour, right? Like, I spent all that time making that intro and I can't even use it. So like, whoop-de-doo. That happened yesterday, by the way. So that's just I couldn't really relate to that. But Yeah, but like this is a bigger case. Obviously, this is like months of work just kind of. It's not in the bin because he does work for other pieces of content. Like I said, in Alliance War, you just slap the Iron Man synergy and he is perfectly fine. But it's like, I'd want my character to work in the most important game mode, and as you can see, he was working very well for those matchups where unfazed wasn't even a thing. But the second it turns on, it's like, okay, I have to just play him completely differently, or I just have to get clipped and just rely on RNG, which I don't want to do. By the way, this fight, really clean one, because Count Nefaria, he gains bonus energy and physical resistance based on his ionic charges. So throughout the entire fight, we were taking a maximum of 400 rock field damage when it's usually 1,000 plus. That's crazy. That is insane. Like, this man is super tanky. He has lifesteal. He has, the regen and power gain stoppage. He has immunities. He has so much. And then on top of that, one of the best DPSs of the year. Like this dude is genuinely beyond god tier in every mode except Battlegrounds, and it's so frustrating. Like, it genuinely does suck how unfazed just stops him so easily, right? Now we have this Kamala Khan fight. He does it just fine. He shuts her off pretty easily. Shuts off the regen, sorry. Here we go for the parry, go back in, hitting very hard now, 22,000 light attacks right there. 26,000 mediums, I believe, and this matchup is over. I think it's over. And it's just so frustrating because I see this matchup, I see how it goes, and I'm like, that's insane. Let me go do that in Battlegrounds. And then I go to Battlegrounds, first fight, unfazed triggers, I get hit, I close the game, I sob. I just sob, and it becomes gloom hours again. Man, it's the worst. I think this character is still very good. I think he is still at least god tier. I think he is definitely beyond god tier in any place not named Battlegrounds. But in Battlegrounds, he's a mixed bag. Especially if people catch on to this character, which this video might do good. So I don't know, it might catch on. I'm not super big YouTube wise, but I could maybe get a video going for Nefaria that does well, and then people see it, people are like, oh shoot, this guy, oh, he's doing these fights in what was this fight time? In 36 seconds. Oh, and the mastery only cost a couple of cores that we got for free from the Legends event. Let me just go buy that real quick. Oh, there we go. No longer worried about him. I don't have to play him either anymore because people are going to run unfazed as well. And then it's this character just fades away in Battlegrounds, and then it's just not fun. it's just terrible, man. I don't think there's a solution anyway, because I think they know that unfazed wrecks him, right? Kabam knows and everything, and they just, is it a way to balance him? I don't know. Is it just a little that they just overlook it on accident? Maybe. I really do not know, but it's annoying. It really is annoying. I can just talk about it all day if I wanted to. But yeah, now we have this final Juggernaut fight. And I've hardly paid attention to the fights I've been showcasing, but surely you see the damage output, you see the utility in the fights, you see how good he is at taking some of the hardest defenders, Korg, Nick Fury. He just does it so well. He's so reliable in those matchups. Or so you think, right? You think he's reliable, but then he does the unfazed stuff, and it's yeah, I have to gamble every time I want to parry, bro. That's not fun. Every time I want to go for a parry to get that massive energy vulnerability, it's a 50-50 risk on unfazed triggering. I think I'll pass on that, right? That's what most people are gonna think when they see this character. So yeah, he's still me personally, I'm gonna try to make him work, right? He does work in, like I said, everywhere not named Battlegrounds, but I'm gonna try to make him work in Battlegrounds as well, because I think he is one of the most fun champions to play in this game, just not even of 2024, just in general. So yeah, this was kind of this video had a bright start, but then it got kind of gloomy once you realize that, oh boy, this guy can be stopped pretty easily, so he's kind of just not irrelevant, but not as beyond god tier as we think, right? So let me know your thoughts on Count Nefaria, and yeah, that's about it for me.